everyone. This is Boomer Life Lessons and Stories. My name's Ron, and we're starting episode 6. Yes, episode 6. It seems like everything has been going very, very fast. I like to talk with, the elder generation. Some call it the greatest generation, and I can see what they endured as they grew up and experienced. And it's pretty amazing. These were very strong of character people who learned lessons through living a very hard life, not because it was of their own choice, but because of global matters. And seriously, when you think about this, you think about what made them who they are. And where did all this wisdom and understanding of what life is all about come from? And I really do say that I get great, immense pleasure out of I've talked with my in-laws, I've talked with my parents, I've talked with my grandparents when they were alive. And I've received lots of these little nuggets of wisdom. And so I hope to share with you something that my mother-in-law said to me one time that made tremendous amounts of sense when it comes to making things happen. She said, when you see something needing doing, and if you're ready for the rest of the story, please stand by and we'll get directly to it. But before we go there, like, share, and subscribe. That will help me immensely with the YouTube video, and I would greatly appreciate that. So let's go ahead and get started with what she actually said. I was having a conversation with her one day about what it was like growing up on the farm. And she and my father-in-law both grew up on a farm. These people are immensely generous in terms of helping others. Their life mission, I think, was to always be there and to be of help. As a matter of fact, kind of interesting, my father-in-law said one time, and he was in his 80s when he said this, he said, "My mission is to help the old people." He was serious. And you know what? He did. There wasn't a need that was left undone that was verbalized to him. Somebody needed to go to the doctor. He took them to the doctor. Somebody needed help around the house. He went and helped them. Somebody needed a little money to help them get through the week. He was generous enough to provide that help. He was golden. I've heard my colleagues when I was in industry talk about, their in-laws were coming to visit. And oh my, what a week that was going to be, right? I enjoyed when my in-laws came to visit. There was no greater people than my mother and father-in-law, Bill and Mabel. I grew up around them. My home church was Park Place, and my father-in-law was a deacon there, and he drove the church bus. So every day or every Sunday, he would drive by the house, stop and pick us up, and we would go on to church on that church bus. And later in life, it was kind of funny. He said that if he had known that I was going to ask his daughter to marry me, he would have just drove them by, those Sunday mornings. Of course, he was laughing when he said it. But I only convey this to you to tell you the type of people they were and are, and the character that they had about them. They were just extremely good people, pillars of the community and pillars of their church. When you hear about individuals like that, you just kind of shake your head and you look out on the current day landscape. Well, this is my time, or this is not, I'm not going to do that because that's going to infringe upon my free time. But literally, there was no such type of attitude or even discussion on their part. Even if they were put out in any way, they still reached out and helped. There was nothing that they wouldn't do to help others. So I really wanted to get an understanding of, what made them who they are. And of course, they grew up during the Depression, and they got married. My father-in-law went into the military. And came out of the military and worked hard, and he joined a great company, a national company, Ryder. But just talking to them, you really wanted to learn as much from them as possible, because they weren't just my in-laws, they were my mentors as well. So one day I was talking to my mother-in-law, and I said, well, what was it like growing up on a farm in North Arkansas? And she said to me one time, well, there were hard times, but there were a lot of good times. And she goes, my father was the type of individual, he would always tell me that if you see something needing doing, you get up and get busy. Now think about that. This is the same lady that when we bought a new house, she was helping my wife unpack all the kitchen pots and pans and setting up the kitchen and the rest of the house. And my wife went and put something in a different place that she normally puts in her kitchens. And her mother says, no, 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 no. You got too many steps to go over there and do that when you're cooking. You need to put it over here and you have fewer steps. Now imagine that. Here, I went to college and all these universities and got several degrees. And one of the things that they always hammered on our head was to be efficient, to design equipment and systems that would enable companies and individuals to do things more efficiently. And I thought this was some sublime type of insight from the early days of industrial engineering back in the early 1900s. Kind of time and motion type studies, right? And here I had my mother-in-law, who grew up on a farm, who was all about efficiencies. The tremendous amount of wisdom and knowledge shared by these individuals is astounding. They didn't learn in some great institution like a University of Texas or Arkansas or Harvard or Stanford. They learned in the school of hard knocks, and they freely shared what they learned. So my wife learned that there was a better way of setting up the kitchen, and I learned from her that if you see something need doing, you get up and get busy. And I've taken that thought, and I've thought about it really longly and deeply quite often through the rest of my life after I heard her say that. And I think she shared that with me back in the 1990s. And I look back on my career, and it's kind of similar to the previous episode about the outlaw Josie Wells, where the phrase endeavor to persevere was communicated to you guys, and what I thought that meant: work hard at working hard. Well, that is exactly what she was getting at. You don't sit back and wait for somebody to tell you to do something. When you see something that needs to be done, you get up and get busy and get after it, make it happen. As a matter of fact, I worked for one of the incarnations of Lockheed Martin. Martin Marietta is the company I went to work for. I was 5 years out of college, senior engineer, went to work for Lockheed Martin. And one of the things I learned very quickly at that great institution, that company, that technology-driven company, forward-looking, forward-leaning, one of the things that I learned was you're not done when you get your job done. You turn around and look at the landscape and look at your team members and say, you're not done. Do you need any help? What can I do to help? Because if the team fails, you fail. If you succeed but the team fails, you still fail, right? So interwoven into my career, both as a engineer, manager, director of engineering, and then as a educator at the University of Texas at Arlington, one of the things that I've learned and seen out there in the work environment is you don't wait and stand by and look for somebody to tell you what to do. If you're capable and your team needs help, you stand up and you go get after it. You make sure that you're doing the things that are sufficient and necessary that will allow your team, your family, and yourself to be successful. So what do? You see something needing doing, you get up and get busy. I don't know what else to add to that, Do you? If you have any thoughts on this or any nuggets of wisdom that your grandparents or your parents have shared with you, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear them. The wisdom that the greatest generation had has only just begun to be tapped, okay, for the benefit of us all. With that, you guys take care. I will see you in the next episode. And please like, subscribe, and share. All the best.